I'm Cassidy, one of your Indianapolis Colts cheerleaders, and you're watching the Bleav in Colts podcast.
What's going on, Colts Nation? I'm Lawrence Owen. With me, as usual, is my guy, Donald Thomas. What's going on, Donald? How are you doing this wonderful Monday evening?
I'm good, man. It's been a long Monday, but we're plugging along, so,
Absolutely.
It's the nightcap. It's the nightcap.
It is, definitely, man. Gotta prepare. Hopefully you got some good plans coming up for the holidays here coming up, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna go down to Dallas. Take me and my kids down to Dallas to my sister's house. We haven't been down there yet, and she moved over there a year ago, so I feel bad. So we're gonna go down there and see her and her family, and that's about it. I don't have any New Year's plans yet, though. I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna do for New Year's.
You're gonna go down to Dallas and take your kids to a Cowboys game, huh?
Let me tell you something. I would go to a Cowboys game at gunpoint. That's real. I'm about to make
you watching, you all know. Yeah, you all know how Donald feels about the Cowboys. Anytime he's got to say something nice about them, he kind of chokes up a little.
The fact that they won last night, I was just like, man, I can't. Because you got to hear it. Like every time they win a game, you got to hear about it. I'm like, whatever, man. I can't take it.
When they win a playoff game, then let me hear about it. Right?
That's what I'm saying. We'll talk.
Absolutely. Well, as we get into this show, currently we got two people watching. Appreciate you guys coming in. I'm sure that there will be more in here. We are going to discuss the Indianapolis Colts, the state of the Colts as they sit currently right now. I know a lot of you are like, oh no, this team is bad after watching the Bengals game, right? But we're going to actually kind of go through that, be just like a normal show for the first 15, 20 minutes. We're going to talk. And then afterwards, after we get what we're going to say in, just like my normal live streams over on Colts Law, we're going to get into the chat and let you guys ask questions. If you wish to ask a question and donate to the channel, feel free and use – whoa, that's not what I was looking for. That is not what I was looking for technically. But the link in the description of the video down here where it says donations, just like a super chat, I got it brought up. Plus, obviously, you can use YouTube super chats as well. But you don't have to ask a question. That's just if you want to help donate and support the channel. Donald?
Yes, sir.
Where do we sit right now? Because we were on a really high note talking about Shane Steichen could be coach of the year, how Minshew is finally opening it up, and the defense is looking so damn good right up until yesterday. And then like a house of cards, it all fell. Are we overreacting to what happened in the Bengals game, or is there a lot to be worried about?
We're not overreacting. This is what fans do. I'm not gonna say this is what Colts fans do. This is what fans do when it comes down to like their team. Like you want your team to win the Super Bowl. You want your team to be successful. You want your team to, be the best team in the league. And so like when a loss comes after some success, listen, the roof is on fire. And so like it's not the end of the world. Yes, it was a bad game yesterday, but I will say this, and we said it in the show earlier today, like, honest to God truth, I really feel like they just didn't come ready to play. Like the urgency wasn't there, in my opinion. Yeah. And that's because that's like you can't tell me that the Bengals should be beating them by 20 points. Like I wouldn't have gave them that. Like, you know what I'm saying? If you told me we were going to rush for less than 50 yards in a game, like I would be like, nah, no way. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's one of those things where like we talked about earlier, you said forget about it. Like, nah, don't forget about it. Let's talk about it. Let's go over it. Let's make the corrections. and let's sit on this for at least a couple of days, and then Wednesday we got to move on. But Monday, Tuesday, like everybody needs to feel this one. Everybody needs to go over this film because this isn't the team that we've been seeing for the past like 4 or 5 weeks prior. You know,
it wasn't a team that we've seen all year. In all honesty, I kind of look at that Bengals game as like an outlier to a lot of stuff. We haven't seen that kind of miscommunication and mistake since earlier in the season, right? Just simple brain farts on the field by players, and not just one or two. Like everybody seemed to be having them, right? Like, when you have a good play and then it gets pulled back because of a stupid penalty, or not paying attention to where your punt returner is and running into him and making him fumble the football, things of that nature. It's just it is what it is, and I don't think that the game that we saw last night was indicative, right, of the team that we have seen for the most part this year. That's how I see it. I'm just I see it as more of an outlier. Did they go out there and play poorly? Yes. Did they look unprepared? I absolutely 100% agree with you. It felt like they didn't have that urgency, right?
Yep.
But I feel like, you talk about this, about how teams need to get a wake-up loss,
Mm-hmm.
and we walked through, as a lot of fans will say, we went through 4 easy teams, and there's no teams in the NFL that are easy. Everyone's professional, right?
Correct.
We talked about that, but fans look at it and say, "Well, we went through 4 easy teams, and we went up against a good team and got our butts handed to us."
Mm-hmm.
But all that did was wake us up, or at least should have woke up the team and say, "Look, we got to go into this better prepared and better focused, and that will help long term." That's what I'm looking at.
It's every time, like when I don't say nothing, I start smiling, like I'm ready to like.
Mm-hmm. That's why I shut up. All right, go ahead, buddy.
So a wake-up loss, when I always refer to that, or like, like when I say team needs to lose a game or two, that's if you have, like, you're in a Philly situation where, like, oh my God, 2-game slide. Like, no. They need this. This is perfect for the formula for them to, go deep in the playoffs and make a push for this. Not when you're 7-5. Like okay,
no
like
fighting.
Yeah, we don't need any more losses. Like we're 7-6. Like we don't need, like there's no more waking up. Like waking up is for like a team with like 1 or 2 losses on a season, and you don't want to be, 15-2 and think you're about to win a Super Bowl. Like, you know what I mean? Like you want to be 13-4, in my opinion. Right? You want to be something like that where, like the wake up losses are the ones where we saw chinks in the armor, mm-hmm. and we fixed it. And so that's one of those things where, you know what, Daniel, that's a very good point. That's why it's called Any Given Sunday. We talked about that. We talked about that on the show earlier today. Like you just can't say teams are going to come out and just roll out a win just week in and week out. Like this stuff happens. But if you're not on your P's and Q's, so if a team is, if you have good players and your team is good, on paper you should beat them. Physically, like up front, you should beat them physically. But what I'm saying is, it's just like it can happen any given Sunday to anybody. And so, if a team takes the cheese and believes that, you got hell to pay. Like especially if a team believes that, like for example, when I played on some teams, like we knew we were going to win football games. Did we take our opponents lightly? No, we just did what we were supposed to do. We came out with a win. Right. But when teams don't take another team serious and they think they're supposed to just beat them, that's when they lose. Oh, you're not going to take me serious. I'm here for a reason too.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when that happens, where you don't take care of business. You don't beat a team you're supposed to beat, or you just don't beat them up or bully them around. Like they're going to hang in there. And if you give them a swing, all right, they connect on that chin. Now you wobbly. And then they just go in for the kill, and they put their foot on your neck, and they don't stop because now you gave them momentum. You just got to take the momentum out of a team from the jump. You can't just play around with them. If you're supposed to beat them and you're supposed to beat them, Go beat them. But this is the league, right? If you give anybody an inch, they're going to take a mile. You can't do that. You just can't.
So, I don't know, last 3 games, I think, if I remember right, even Jonathan Taylor's last game, the Colts running game has not been very effective. 2-3 yards a carry, right? And it's worrisome because to me, I feel like that has to be the centerpiece, the focal point, of the offense in this. It sets the tone for a game. You really don't want Gardner Minshew throwing the ball 45, 50 times a game, right? He's shown multiple times. Generally, you don't want that to happen. What's going on there? Why are the Colts not able to effectively run the football as of late? And can this be fixed like over the short term?
There's a lot of different factors, right? For one, it's late in the season. Guys are beat up. They're worn down, especially up front. You got to understand, that they're those guys up front have gone through probably 6 major car accident collisions when you total up all the hits, every snap, after every snap. You total that up, they've been in some major car collisions, for real. But, there's a lack of urgency up front, in my opinion. But there's also, teams just know, hey, we stopped the run. We 9 times out of 10, we're going to beat the Colts because you're going to rely on Gardner to sling the ball around the rest of the game. If we shut the run game down, and you really saw it yesterday. You saw it yesterday. We had less than 50 yards rushing on the ground. It's crazy to me, right? Mm-hmm. So now you're asking a quarterback, the backup quarterback that's now the starter, to put the team on his back and throw 90% of the time every time he drops back, right? And the team knows that because we've already shut the run down. Now you're fighting from behind. What else do you want that man to do? That's not his game to get over 300 yards per game throwing the football. It's just not. You know what I'm saying? So it's just I don't have a recipe for it. Guys up front just have to understand that this is what it is. They're going to put 7, 8 in the box. They put 8 in the box. You got to man up and block it efficiently. We're asking our tight end to be involved. He's got to block, right? He's got to get involved in the run game. And you don't see it as consistent. It's just consistency, Lawrence, all the time. If you really look at the Colts breakdown every single game, and when you look at when they were winning games, they had those 5 games in a row where they won those games. There was consistency with line play up front. Now you look at before when they lost a couple games earlier in the season. Look at the game. Look at those games. It was inconsistent. You didn't have a consistent line that was starting. You didn't have guys that were firing off the football, getting movement. Then you look at when we had the win streak, you see the complete opposite. Protecting quarterback, guys firing off the ball. You know what I'm saying? There's pep in the step. They're communicating even better. And then you see yesterday, and it's it was flat from the jump. The whole thing was just flat.
Yeah. Well, see, my thing, another thing, you've talked about this a lot, is about, utilizing Jonathan Taylor's speed on toss sweeps and stretch and stuff of that nature, getting outside the boxes to kind of open up the linebackers, right? Maybe a little bit so you can run in the middle occasionally. But with Jonathan Taylor out, what do you do there? Can you utilize that by using, I don't know, jet sweeps and things of that to try to open up the linebackers or something? Or you just kind of, you are what you are. You're a between the tackles team running the ball without Jonathan Taylor.
I mean, do you have the personnel for it is the question, right? Besides Jonathan Taylor, can you run a jet sweep with who's currently on the roster? Maybe you can. I mean, every team I've been on, there was a guy besides the starter that had unique abilities, very unique abilities, and only the people that really knew about those unique abilities was the people that were in that building, because he really didn't get a chance to really shine or start or get any reps in a real game. He just, preseason, and then during the season he was on P squad or he was on active roster, but he just never played, right? So maybe there is a guy on the team that can really get on the edge and make some plays, right? But when you look at it, is Zach Moss a jet sweep guy? He laughs. You know what I'm saying though? Like who else is going to run that to where we can really like spread out the offense and really get guys moving? You know, like right now when you play the Colts, like watch the linebackers. Like they're just coming straight. They're just coming downhill. Like no one's forced to, stop, make a read, and got to go left or right. Like everybody's just like, all right, boom, boom, go downhill, make a play, right? And so like then we can bring a safety down, and it's like,
yeah. I was getting ready to say that as well, Speed, that Isaiah McKenzie can be a jet sweep guy. He does have the speed, but he's got to be on the field to be a jet sweep guy. And if you take Josh Downs, the rookie, off the field and put McKenzie in there instead, defenses are going to know what they pay attention to who's on the field, right? I mean, they notice, hey, the normal starter ain't there. That's a punt returner, right?
Yeah, so, I mean, 100%. They know the personnel that's out there. They know exactly who. Like, and then that's the thing. Like, but how many times are they really gonna put him out there at running back to like trust him to run that football like that in a certain circumstance where you can't afford to turn the ball over, you can't afford to not have to make the right reads, like all that. Like, what people don't understand is like, he's on the roster for a reason. Like he's there and he has the ability to make plays, stretch the field and all that kind of stuff. There's only one other reason why he's not playing. It's not because no one doesn't like him. It's not because he's on the roster. He's dressing for a reason. They don't trust him enough to do it. That's what it comes down to. It. If you as a coach, as a staff, whatever. If you have a guy on your team, right, and he has ability to return kicks, he has whatever position it is, and he's good enough to make the roster and be on the roster, but then at the end of the day, you don't fully trust him to do his job. If I don't fully trust you on Tuesday, Wednesday, what makes you think I'm going to trust you on Sunday?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so – excuse me. At the end of the day, like they're not going to take certain chances with certain guys, and that's any team, any coaching staff, whatever, because they just don't trust that guy to make the play. They don't trust him to put him on the field.
So, in my opinion, after the game that we just saw on Sunday, now we got a short week, right? For 4:30 game on Saturday against the Steelers. Is the Steelers game a gut check?
The Steelers game is a must win for 100%. Like the way the Steelers look, the way the Steelers just recently looked, though, like, I mean, the Colts had their game too, right? So, like, listen, every game for the rest of the season, these last few games, like the Colts must win these games. Yeah. And they just made it even harder for themselves to have any type of other slip up because of the way they came out and played Cincinnati. Like they just can't afford to they cannot have another game like that and expect to like win something or get into playoffs because like Houston lost, right? So like now Houston if their coaches are telling them the same thing, and I guarantee they understand that they're gonna be trying to win football games. Jacksonville's hanging on by the skin of their teeth until Trevor Lawrence gets back, and then still he ain't gonna be ready to go.
I mean, he played this past week. He had no mobility. No.
That's what I'm saying, though. Like, What did that really do for you?
Right.
Like, he's just a wounded dog out there. Like, like you hate to even see it. It's just painful to watch. Like, so at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm not about to just be sitting out here, like, and just nonchalantly go about the rest of the season. Like, we got to win every game. We got to win them all. The last one.
Is it possible? Do you think that the Indianapolis Colts, as they sit right now, are able to turn around the issues that we saw on Sunday and pull off win after win after win and make the playoffs? Or do you think that, where do you feel the Colts are right now in that situation?
You got Steelers, Falcons, Raiders, Texans. Steelers, same record, 7-6. Falcons, reciprocal, 6-7. Raiders, 5-8. Texans
that scored 0 points against the Minnesota Vikings.
But listen,
I know any given Sunday.
That's what I'm saying, because they'll mess around and like come out here and put up 35 points, and it'll be a freaking shootout at the OK Corral.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So like, I don't look at that, but what I'm saying is this: is when you look at it, almost all these teams on paper are record-wise are evenly matched.
Yeah,
you're not playing. You're not going against a 10-3 team. You're not going against you're not doing that. So like, can the Colts win all 4 games? 100% they can win all 4 games. Will they is the question. Because like, I'm going to tell you something else. And this is a perfect example. 2009 season, my second year in the league. I'm in Miami. Same exact scenario. We were 7-6. Houston was 7-6. The Steelers. This is crazy. Now I'm talking this whole thing out. Steelers were 7-6. We all were fighting to make the playoffs. And guess what? We didn't make the playoffs because guys checked out before the end of the season. That's the only reason why we didn't make the playoffs. And we played Houston and Pittsburgh at the end of the year to determine if we were going to get in the playoffs. That's how tight it came down. 2009.
You said players checked out.
Yeah.
How does a team keep players focused and headstrong in that situation? Is that a coach thing? Is that a leadership in the locker room thing? What goes on there?
We checked out because we checked out. Well, I'm not going to say we because I didn't check out. I was still fighting. I wasn't making a ton of money at the time. I was trying to, get it. But like them dudes had checked out because they were just over the coaching staff. Point blank period. Like we were tired of getting beat up every day at practice. Like we were still coming to practice and they were making us like do, inside run ones versus ones. If it wasn't good enough, we had to do it over again. Like just crazy stuff like that. So guys that checked out, guys were ready to go to Cancun. We was ready to go to Vegas. We was ready to, we already lived in Miami. So Miami wasn't nothing to drive, 20 minutes down the highway to South Beach. But guys that checked out, and that's what I'm saying. So like to the outside looking in, there was this huge playoff race. We were like, no playoff race. We're going to come out. We're going to play football. But we weren't dialed into where everyone was watching extra film. Everybody was like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so like depending on really how the Colts take it, I'm not over there on 56th Street. I'm not saying anyone checked out. I'm just saying that it was the same exact scenario with the same teams that were in play when I was playing for the Dolphins. And then we were 7-6, 7-7, and we played the Steelers and we played the Texans at the end of the season to determine who was getting into the playoffs. And dudes had checked out already. And I knew we weren't going to win.
So Steichen right now is once midseason hit, he started doing walkthroughs, first practice. Every first practice is a walkthrough. There's no beating each other up on practices on the first practice. Do you think that's a good or a negative thing?
I mean, you just try, like coaches just try, new ways to make sure that they take care of their players. You know what I'm saying? And so like walkthroughs are only as good as your team is and how mature they can be and handle it. Like in order to like a walkthrough can be really effective, excuse me, if you have the right mature team for them all to understand the severity of, hey, we're not banging, we're not, full speed, we don't have anything on. Let's make sure this walkthrough's right. Everybody understands every possible scenario. Everybody understands what's going on. And you can do that. You can get away with that. Like you can get away. I know like a lot of people, you heard this story before, but when I was in New England, we didn't practice on Wednesdays. Virtually unheard of. We had a walkthrough, a 2-hour walkthrough. And we still were winning football games. So, but you can't like now. You think Belichick's having a 2-hour walkthrough on a Wednesday? No, them boys are practicing. Like you know what I'm saying? But like we were winning football games, and you had a quarterback that commanded the team. You had veteran leadership almost in every room except for like the running back room. No, we had a veteran. We still had what's his name? I can't even think of his name. Anyway, what was his name, man? The old running back in New England when I was there. Kevin Falk.
Kevin Falk.
Okay. Yeah, you still had Kevin there. So he was that leadership in that room. The O-line room was like, so like you could pull that off. Like you can't pull it off with every team. So like maybe they need to be practicing. I don't know. I'm not a head coach, right? That's not my team and not my decision. But
well, as we speak right now, it's in the third quarter, and the Tennessee Titans are up on Miami 10-3. That's interesting. That's interesting.
Well, I never thought Miami was
10-7. My bad, not 10-3, 10-7, but still.
I never thought Miami was a Super Bowl contender team or anything like that. I think they were just one of these teams that just came out this year and are surprisingly better than what people expected. They put some things on offense like around Tua, but just got hurt in that game.
Yeah,
Tyreek Hill.
Hill did.
Yeah,
I'm not watching the game, so I didn't know.
Yeah, he's out. I don't know exactly what it is, but he's been standing on the sideline for like 2 quarters. So,
oh wow,
yeah. So like there goes their offense. But you know what I'm saying? Like one man doesn't stop the show. Like who else gonna make a play?
Mm-hmm.
I get it, but come on now. Like, come on, Tennessee. Like you guys are supposed to be the better football team. We're not shell shocked. I mean, if Tua went out, that's room for discussion. We mean Tyreek. I know Tyreek is very dominant and he's very dynamic and he's very all the above, but we should be able to score some points, man.
Well, I mean, Tennessee, if anything, they're known for their defense because of Vrabel and all them. But again, Miami is built around high-powered speed offense. That's what they're built around. Part of that is, like you said, off the field right now. So you say we can win out. Will we? That's the question. We got to stay focused. They can't check out. Players can't check out. They got to be focused and willing to put in the work to actually win that game, right? That's basically
every game. Yeah, like if you think about it, we got 4 games and pretty much everybody's pretty evenly matched.
Okay.
Record-wise. So like this is like it's a 1-game playoff elimination every week. But the Colts have to look at it like that.
So is that a thing where players actually, I mean, I obviously as a Colts fan, I've heard, Peyton Manning putting in the extra time at home, doing film work and stuff, but is that a common thing among players? Do a lot of players do that, or do most players just, once they leave the building, once they leave the facility, they're done with football to get away from
it? It all depends on the player. Like, for example, like I watched a lot of film. I watched a ton of film, but I also was married at the time and I didn't want to be around my wife. So I would watch film downstairs. And when we had our son, and we would put him to bed when I get home around like 6 o'clock, 6:30, and I'll just go downstairs and watch film and she wouldn't bother me. And I was like, perfect. But like everyone's different. Everybody's different. Like everybody's like, it depends. Some guys feel like when it's after 5:30 and it's time to check out, they check out. Those are the players that are average in the league. The good players are the ones that sacrifice and will watch an extra hour of film when they get home, or come in early and watch film or rewatch practice, or what I'm saying. So all that stuff, it really all depends on the kind of player you want to be. I personally just knew that if I could go into a game and I knew as much as I possibly could on my opponent, and I knew exactly what they're going to do, and I knew all the scenarios when that could happen. So I was big on stats, analytics. I was big on down and distances. I was big on opening drives. Like, what is their tendencies when they come out? Are they high pressure? Like all those things. Like, and I'm watching now, break film down on that. Like, let me just watch 3rd and longs here. Let me watch 3rd and shorts. Let me watch 2nd and longs. Let me watch 2nd and shorts. Let me see what they do on 1st and 10. What are they in against nickel packages? Like, what are the stunts? What are the blitz percentages? Right? Like all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, because it's important. Now I can go in the game And I know exactly every single time they get lined up, what are the two or three possible outcomes or what they're going to run before they run it. Oh, it's 3rd and 6. This is a high blitzing percentage down. So look, we know something's up. Oh shoot, they're in the 3 down. I remember this now. They brought the safety and they brought the will on the other side. And they looped they ran a game with the center and the end. Like stuff like that. So now you already know what's up. And it just helps you become a better player. When you're out there guessing and you don't know, you got to really react and just play off of sheer like athleticism. Then you're not utilizing every single opportunity. You're never going to be the best player that you could possibly be. But if you go into that thing and you're a superior athlete and you know the game plan and you know what your opponent's going to do inside and out, front to back, now I could just be a freaking a baller and really dominate you because I know everything you're about to do. I can see the punch before it happens. Those are the great players. There's good, there's great, and there's average.
Yeah. I always thought that was one of the reasons why the Colts offense was so prolific, not just because they were good, but, Peyton Manning, Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne, before, after practice, outside of the facility, they would watching film, catching passes, doing things like that, constantly all the time. I think that was something that really, really helped, and not just, hone their own skills, but also you learn little things about the guys you're playing with during their route. You see little tendencies, or, you get that eye contact thing going, right? Where you're like, all right, you share a look and you know exactly what this guy is going to do type deal. But since I didn't realize, I completely forgot it was Monday Night Football.
Yeah,
it's two games going on at the exact same time. With who is it? We got Giants and Green Bay, I think, is beating the Giants right now, right? But it's still a tight game. That's nice.
Yeah,
2 good games going on. So that's probably why we don't have very many people in here. Those of you that watch this or listen to this later on, keep an ear out for next time. We won't do these. I'll try to do it while there's not a game going.
Yeah, I knew there were games on, but I didn't really think this thing through.
Yeah. All good. Real quick. Who are your top 5 quarterbacks in the AFC? We'll end it with that right there.
In the AFC?
In the AFC, who are your top 5 quarterbacks?
In no particular order?
In no particular order.
Okay. So we'll just start off. I got Lamar. Lamar's in my top 5. Let's go up to Buffalo.
Allen.
Okay. Oh man, let's go down to Patty Mahomes.
Okay.
I'm going to throw right now in the AFC, right?
Just AFC.
Okay. I'm going to throw 2 in there. And then I'm going to have to go all out to dang, man. I got 4 right now.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to make this easy for you. Anyone that's on IR currently right now is off the table. So no Burrow.
I wasn't going to put him in there anyway.
Okay.
You already know I'm not a huge fan of
Joe
Burrow.
You're going to say Joe Flacco.
No, man, I'm gonna go ahead. I said 2 is right already.
Mm-hmm.
All right, my last one is man. That's what I'm saying, man. It's tough after this one. I
know who my 5th is. I'm agreeing with you on the other 4 so far. I know who my 5th is.
I'm going with the young boy down in Houston.
Really? CJ Stroud?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go with C.J. Stroud. I'm going to put C.J. sixth. I think Russell Wilson is fifth right now. I would not have said that last year. Not in a heartbeat. I know. I hear you. But if you look at what that man has done this year, I'm putting him in the top 5.
Yeah.
Right? Look, I think consistently Russell Wilson has played game after game after game very, very well. C.J. Stroud has had games where he just looked lost or disappeared, right? I haven't seen that from Russell this year yet.
No, I mean Russell is tried and true a bona fide starter in the league. Like he is. And so like when you break it down, like he's not going to be like, you're not going to sit here and tell me that he's terrible. But at the same time, it's like he just hasn't been. Look, no, he really just hasn't been like he just hasn't been great the past last year through the first few weeks in this season.
I'm not saying I like Russell Wilson all together as a quarterback. There are 2 major things about Russell Wilson that I'm not fond of, one of which he can do nothing about, and that's his size, his stature. He's not a very tall guy. It's tough for him. You can see him trying to look around offensive linemen and defensive linemen, consistently all the time doing that. Nothing you can do about that. He's not going to grow 4 or 5 more inches, right? The other thing that I had a big problem with, which is what I did have, which you saw a lot of last year, is when he got under pressure, he would run backwards. I didn't like that. You can't give more negative yardage when you're already under pressure. You can't do that. And he had a tendency of doing that. Haven't seen that nearly as much from him this year. And I think consistently he has played has his team played well around him the whole year? No. But it wasn't Russell that was losing games for Denver earlier this year when they was like 1-4, 1-5, the defense was not playing well. The receivers were dropping balls. It was bad. Right.
But we just talked about that earlier in our early episode. Like as a quarterback, you're always going to fall on the sword first and foremost before anyone else does. And a player like Russell Wilson, who had a ton of success back in the day, a few years back, now all of a sudden is, being asked to lead another team, like it's not easy, and the first person is going to get pointed at is him. And that's one of those things where like you have to weather the storm and be mentally strong enough to still be a player that you are or know you can be, and then actually perform. I know Donald is an offensive guy, but asking about the team's tackling, it used to be a team strength, but seems to not be the case anymore.
He sees a lot of broken tackles, missed tackles, bad angles. A lot of people are pointing that out on the defense, at least this year.
Yeah. Well, let's take into account the defensive change. Guys that have been brought into this zone system over playing man-to-man defense is number one, right? So we kind of take that into account. Now, listen, I'm just giving scenarios of why maybe the tackling is not as good. I'm not saying this is my disclaimer. I'm not saying that this is the actual reason why. I'm just throwing that out there as I don't like, honest to God truth, what it just really comes down to, if you want me to be completely honest, like we'll just say, zone, blah, blah, blah. It comes down to coaching and drilling that to make sure the guys understand you have got to wrap up. You have to tackle better. And here's where we get away with things. As the season goes on, some coaches want to take care of guys. They want to make sure that they're still happy at practice and they're keeping their morale going. So the tackling drills we used to do in the beginning of the season, the tackling drills we used to do in training camp, we don't do them anymore. We talk about things. We'll hey, take your helmets off. Let's walk through this real quick. And so that 10, 15 minutes of a tackling circuit, we don't do that anymore. So what happens? Bad habits start to form because we're not practicing tackling during the week. And now it's something to go out there and just be a tackling machine, and we're still like, something like everybody's not good enough to not do something for the whole year, and you expect them to do it on one day that they're not even doing for the 3 practice days of the week. It's just not realistic. Now, I don't know if that's the case, but I'm just telling you from what I've seen and the stuff I've been around, like a lot of teams will do stuff early in the season. As the season progresses, they take them off the table because they want to make sure they take care of the guys at practice and don't push them too hard, or we're not going to make them keep tackling each other because we don't want them to get beat up. And I get it. Some coaches are old school. They don't care. It's the same thing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. This is how I structure practice on Wednesday, structure practice on Thursday, structure practice on Friday. We have tackling drills every single time. Compare my defense to your defense and see how many broken tackles there are statistically at the end of the season. And then let's compare how well my team, went to the playoffs and how well your team went to the playoffs based upon how many broken tackles or missed tackles that you had with your head down, not wrapping up, one-arm tackles, not breaking down properly. These are all drills that you do during training camp, and some teams do still during the season. When you stop doing them or practicing them, bad habits form on the field.
Another thing that I want to bring up is something that I think every Colts fan who knew Matt Eberflus, you may not have liked his scheme and some of the stuff that he brought, but one thing he did bring to this defense was that, the no loaf thing. He actually had he would have actual tape of practice and game, and if you loafed, then you got cut. You got snaps cut. If he saw that you weren't putting forth the full effort that you needed during practice, you had snaps cut from you.
Yeah,
nuts. But it worked. You saw the effort on the field every game day.
Every
game day.
Is it nuts though? Is it really nuts?
It's nuts in the point of the fact that I don't hear that very often around the league. I don't hear that. Does it happen? I don't know. I'm not there at every team meeting and stuff like that. But to me, this is something that he has announced outright, that I have not heard other defensive coordinators or head coaches talk about. I do hear it from him, and he consistently talks about loafs, and that is one of his strong points. I like it. It's just, the fact that, he's letting everybody know about it outside of the building, right, is what's kind of shocking to me.
Like, I respect that, because at the end of the day, it's just like, don't come to me when you're wondering, why isn't so-and-so playing? Why isn't this person, what's the decision being? I'm telling you why he's not playing. So everyone else can know why he's not playing. Everyone else in the stands can know why he's not playing. And all it does is put people on notice. So, like, if you don't want to be the guy put on notice, you don't want to be the guy that has his business aired out there or whatever, then play better, give effort. You're getting paid a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
You're playing a game that everyone wants to that ever play football dreamed of, whether they knew they could play at that level or not. Don't take that for granted. Like, that gets me fired up. Like, don't take it for granted. Like, play well. That's all he's trying to tell you to do.
Mm-hmm.
And if he has to do all that to make sure that you play well, for one, you won't be around for that long in the league. But two, you just need to play better. Period. I like it. I came from that era. Like, I just always was around for the most part of my career, college and professionally, like old school coaches that just didn't care. Like, they would air you out when you weren't like pulling your weight. They would have tough practices. They would have tough training camps. They would have just like, okay, so for example, people say, well, why was your line so good when you were in New England? And I get it, Colts fans. Like, I know we don't want to talk about New England, but I'm just trying to compare something real quick, right? We did the same drills every single day, whether it was training camp to regular season to the playoffs to practicing for the Super Bowl. The same individual drills every single day at practice. Our individual period was this. We could have done it in our sleep. We knew exactly what we were doing. As soon as we jogged over there from warm-ups, As soon as we jogged over there, we already knew where to go. We already knew what we were doing. We knew the intensity, the tempo that needed to be done. It was the same footsteps, same landmarks, same hip, like everything. But guess what? You never saw or asked why is the line play diminishing throughout the course of the year? You don't never ask, like, why aren't they a good unit? Because you have to do the small things consistently very well in order to be a great player, a great team. So when you ask about the tackling, I'm telling you, they're not doing it in practice. They're not practicing it in practice. Because there's no way that you do something and you just regress as a professional athlete. We can have our slumps. Everybody has slumps. You can have a shooting slump in basketball. You can have a slump where you're dropping passes. You can have a slump where I'm struggling against the pass protection. You can have your slumps. But as a whole unit, you don't just get worse as a whole unit, and that's just by chance. There's a reason for everything, and they're not practicing tackling. And they need to go back to practicing. But guess what? A lot of these coaches, and I'm not saying this is what's going on in Indy, they're just so concerned about making sure that their players are happy. I'm telling you, and when you start worrying about that and you let it be a team, player-ran team, or you want to be a coach-friendly, a player-friendly coach, you can run into these issues like, nah, man, put the hammer down. We're not tackling. We're not tackling properly. We're going to go back to drill this tackling stuff every day in practice till we stop missing tackles because we can't go deep in the playoffs if we keep missing tackles.
Gotcha.
I'm sorry. I just go on rants and I get fired up.
This will be the last thing we talk about. We've already went over a little bit about what we agreed upon before we started, but wants to know who your favorite active right guard in the league is right now.
Why right guard?
Well, I'm assuming.
I mean, I play both because.
Okay, guard. Who's your favorite guard, period, in the league right now?
Oh, man.
I assume he wanted to take left guard out because that's Quentin Nelson's position. But
yeah, no. When I'm looking at guards, I never look at right guard or left guard. I just look at guard.
Guard. Okay.
It's painful to say. Zach Martin's up there. Quentin's up there, but he has his moments, in my opinion, where
last couple of years he has.
Yeah. What did we talk about? 2 games ago?
Yeah.
Like if the game had ended with him getting ran over like that, and that could have been. Yep. If that was me, I would have packed it up. I wouldn't have been able to stop like that. But you know what? I also like the Cowboys left guard, the rookie, the young boy they got. He's stout, man. I can't think of his name right now.
I think my favorite left guard, or right guard, period, I think is Brandon Sheriff, even though he plays both sides too. But right now he's currently right guard for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah,
but he was with Washington for years.
Yeah.
And he went back and forth on both sides of the center.
Yeah.
Brandon Sheriff is a powerhouse. Dude is, and he's well over 30, and he pushes people. I love his attack in the run game.
So. Yeah. No, I mean, there's good. There's not good guards everywhere.
No,
I won't lie and say that.
No.
But there's some average guys. I mean, I really don't have a favorite, who I'm saying it's just like that guy that I just don't look at it. I just don't. Okay. I just look at units as a whole before I start breaking down guys. That's just how I've always. I'm sorry if I didn't answer your question. I apologize.
Well, you named out some guys that you really liked, and that's something at least. But I think that's going to do it for us tonight here. It's been 50 minutes. Appreciate the 10 of you that came in here. I promise we'll go during a time that is not got 2 live games going on late in the evening. Maybe next time we do this, we could do it a little bit earlier, before bedtime and when there isn't like a football game or two going. But thanks for taking your time out, Donald, to come on here and hang out and talk a little bit about Colts football and NFL at the same time. And any final words for Colts fans that will rewatch this?
Here's the deal. It's a 4-game, one single elimination playoff scenario for the Colts every week against pretty evenly matched teams, and they're gonna have to come out and really like play every week like it's the last game, because it possibly could be the determining factor for them getting in the playoffs or not, because the race is so tight. So, yes, we lost, but don't panic to the point where you think it's all like it's over. It's just they just got to be locked in for the rest of it. They all right. So they threw the wiggle room out. That last week was the wiggle room. They threw it out. You probably wanted to see it against, not so right after, we say they got to win every game, but they threw it out. So now they got to really show if they're, worthy of being in the playoffs. And so they just got to play well for the rest of the season. If they do, if they can do that consistently, and if they can get Jonathan Taylor back, what's he got? Probably another week or two out.
Probably 2.
Yeah, at least, right? So, and then depending on if they have a Super Bowl, but a playoff chance, you may or may not see him anymore, right? If by the time he comes back, if they don't have a shot of, get in the playoffs, he might be shutting it down for the rest of the year. So, you just never know. We'll see, though. We'll just have to keep watching and keep hope alive for your Colts.
Yep, we'll see this Saturday how bad they actually want to make the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, single elimination. So, all right, I think that's going to do it for us here at Bleav in Colts, brought to you by Bet Online. I am Lawrence Owen. That is Donald Thomas. And as usual, go Colts.
Go Colts.
Do you believe?